Sports Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast. With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brandon Matisse says, "Give me the rock." Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam. And now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch. Today is Wednesday, August 26th, 2026, and it's my official duty to welcome you into episode 574 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to Jubilation City. Welcome to the start of class. Ohio State students reported this weekend. Buckeyes are back in their classes and getting into the routine and the grind and all of that, and all 15 Ohio State men's basketball players are on campus. That's right, 15. Last time we spoke, it was 14. It's officially official. Ohio State has added Lee Aaliya, a big man with significant international experience, including some professional experience overseas. He is 21 years old. He is a big guy. He is listed at, of all the things I had prepared, I somehow forgot to jot down his height and his weight. So he's listed on the Ohio State roster as wearing number 23, 6'9", 225 pounds. We don't know how many years he will have at Ohio State. We'll get into that, and we'll talk more about his addition. We'll talk about what this means for the roster going forward, what still might be happening, and we've got some recruiting dates to look at as well, some visit dates. So there's a lot going on for Ohio State just getting things underway here for the fall. Before we get into that, I want to remind you that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. If you do subscribe, you'll automatically get the newest ones just as soon as our man Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, can grab them and publish them for us. While you're subscribing or downloading, please leave a review, please click 5 stars, and please consider telling a friend. Shout out to Buckeyes Cavs 1. Thanks for the kind words in the review. Really appreciate that, and hope you got through it just like I did. Tears at a minimum. It was been an emotional time getting back into school. All right, so Lee Aaliya, which instantly is like one of my 5 favorite names to say in Ohio State basketball history. I mean, I'd have to. I'm writing it down right now. I need to come up with my favorite names in Ohio State history. We'll revisit this later. Remind me if I don't. But Lee Aaliya is going to be one of my favorite names. And he is on campus. He was supposed to arrive with the rest of the team and be there on Sunday. He had some flight issues and got in on Monday. And this is a guy who has been committed for a while, early summer-ish. But Ohio State had to work through some eligibility stuff to get it all across the finish line. Now, going back through his story, so he's obviously been playing basketball for a long time, but he was actually committed to Michigan. He committed to Juwan Howard in August 2023, and then 6 months later announced his decommitment and cited, quote, "due to circumstances beyond my control involving the NCAA." That was in a social media post at the time. I can't still find the social media post, so it had to have been deleted between then and now. Speaking with someone who covers Michigan, they gave me the impression that they don't think that Michigan's compliance office necessarily had like the strongest idea of what it was doing, or maybe pushed as hard as it needed to try to get that across the line. Whereas obviously Ohio State has been working at this for quite some time and now definitely has him in uniform and ready for the season. We don't know how long he'll play. We don't know how many seasons he'll have. He is 21. He's had a couple of professional seasons. That's still being worked out. Hopefully we'll get some answers on that here before long. I've had him described to me as a high Q, experienced, versatile big. He's physical. He's not a wing. So think more like power forward / maybe small ball center type of guy. He's a strong guy who rebounds well and has a different skill set than the other bigs on Ohio State's roster. He's expected to increase this team's physicality. I have seen some people say that they're concerned because, yeah, he's got some size, but like the last time Ohio State really like dipped into the international waters and signed a professional. Matthew Griachich didn't amount to anything at Ohio State last season. And among the many differences here is that Lee is older, Lee is more experienced, Lee has been playing at a high level for a longer period of time, and he has a more Big Ten ready body and level of experience behind him than what Griachich did last year. So he's played for UCAM Murcia in Spain. I have a hard time with the word or with the name Murcia because I look at it and I think Murica, and that's just my brain playing tricks on me. But every time I see Murcia, I think Murica. So he's played with them in Spain. He played in the Liga ACB. This past year, he was on UCAM's top team, averaged 18.4 points and 9.6 rebounds, shooting nearly 60% from the floor. He's not a floor stretcher. He's not a three-point shooter. He's going to make his living around the basket. He's going to attack the glass. He's going to play more above the rim and play with physicality and energy and all that stuff, but not a guy who's going to be going out there knocking down threes. Before his Michigan commitment, he played in the U19 World Cup in 2023, averaged 17.1 points and 9.0 rebounds while shooting 56% from the floor while playing 7 games for Argentina. So native of Argentina, been playing in Spain. In 2024-25, he played with Atenas de Cordoba in Argentina, and that team made the Final Four of the South American Basketball Champions League, averaged 7.4 points and 3.5 rebounds in 17.5 minutes per game. So this is as, a younger player, certainly on that roster. Ohio State's game notes list Atenas de Cordoba as Argentina's most successful club team. I don't have expert knowledge on Argentinian basketball, so I'll take them at their word. And we'll do more research between now and when the season starts and try to get to know more about the background and about this whole journey to get to this point. In a statement, Ohio State men's basketball coach Jake Diebler said, quote, "Lee is an energetic big who I'm excited to have join our Buckeye family. His experience, athleticism, and physicality make him a valuable addition to our program." Again, not entirely sure at this moment how many years he will have at Ohio State. But this adds another big body to Ohio State's roster. You're talking about, so last year, Amari Bynum, this year, whatever. Amari Bynum, 6'8", 245. He played some small ball center last year for Ohio State, especially as Christoph Tilley was dealing with some injury and once Brandon Knoll went down. But this roster has 7 players taller than Amari Bynum. And I would say of those 7, 5 of them are certainly in the playing rotation. Ivan Yagovin, 7'2", 260, junior. Vuk Lazarevich, 7'1", 230, freshman. I don't expect him to be in the primary rotation. Andrea Jelovic, 6'11", 240, junior. Josh Ojonwuna, 6'10", 270, fifth year. Anthony Thompson, 6'9", 215, freshman. He will certainly be playing a lot. And Alex Smith, 6'9", 215 freshman. I think he's probably going to be outside of the main rotation, but certainly from what we've seen during the summer and what I saw in Puerto Rico, looks capable. So you start looking at this team and talking about how big Ohio State has looked, and that's been a constant theme as we've gotten to watch things throughout the summer, as I watched them in Puerto Rico. This team is big. This team has a lot of size. This team has a lot of length. And here's another guy. So there's 3 forwards that are all 6'9", and then Amari Bynum 6'8". I think this goes a long way toward shoring up some of that depth there, like at the 4. If you end up in a situation, I'm incredibly fascinated by how all these bigs are going to fit together and who can play with whom, who can slide out to the 4. Can they play Jelovic at the 4 with Yagovin at the 5 or Ojonwuna at the 5, or can they play, Bynum at the 3 and I don't know, Aaliyah at the 4 and Yagovin at the 5. Like it's going to be really fascinating, like how this all fits together. But certainly, I think you feel better about the powered forward position now with a player like Aaaliya if there is a scenario where Amari Bynum's in foul trouble or, he gets the flu or whatever. And you're not necessarily turning to a center per se. And I know like Yelovich isn't listed as a center, but I in my head, I think I sort of maybe unfairly just associate him as being a center. And so now you have like another power forward who is capable of jumping in there and handling important minutes, or at least that's what the pedigree here would imply. And it's probably worth noting that this was something Ohio State certainly went to bat for and pursued over a long period of time. So I don't believe they would bring him in if they didn't think and go to all the trouble that it took to bring him in if there wasn't real belief he could be an important contributor. So I wouldn't expect him at this point to start, but I would imagine he's going to be playing important minutes for Ohio State, and I would pencil him into that rotation. Maybe in the next week or two, we'll start figuring out what we think that rotation could look like. Problem with that, problem with trying to do that right now, is that this team's might not be done. So we're going to hold off on some of that until we know for certain how many or which players are on this roster. So I say that as we're about to turn the calendar to September, and we're asking the question, is Ohio State done? Is this roster set? And right now, we don't know. Now, if anybody else is going to be added, it will be Christoph Tilley. We know that. The question is that going to happen, and where does everything stand in that process? So there's a lot at play here, notwithstanding the fact that someone would have to leave. Unless at the end of all of this, Christoph Tilley has eligibility, and because he's a fifth-year player who initially wasn't going to be eligible but now is, maybe those players don't count against the roster limits. Failing that, Ohio State would have to get rid of somebody in order to make room for Christoph Tilley if he were to come back for a fifth season. It's also worth noting that Ohio State doesn't have to actually declare its roster until the first game. So it's not like, I know I've talked on here about like there have been some like eligibility deadlines and things like that. And yeah, that stuff does play a role, at least to some regard, but there are different levels of like online classes and in-person classes and what you can take and when you have to do all that stuff. So like Christoph Tilley is in Ohio State's student database. He's listed in the directory. He is taking classes. He's not in Columbus. But there's a lot in like the legal landscape right now that is, it's changing on a daily basis. And if you are frustrated with this, if you're tired of this, if you're sick of it, if you just want to know who's going to be on the team that you're going to watch and what is the team going to look like, I feel you. And it's super easy right now to just say like, this is all the NCAA's fault and they should have, made decisions 30 years ago. And like, that's all true. And it's also true to say like, man, the players have been getting a raw deal for so long and they're finally getting what they deserve and they should be able to do this and do that. And I think that's also true. But I think we can all agree that like, there has to be some rules somewhere. And I think we will all be better off when we agree on what that somewhere should be. What we're dealing with at the moment, or the biggest thing, I suppose, is that with the NCAA moving to 5 years of eligibility, starting with anyone who's in college basketball this season, 2026-27, everybody gets a fifth year. Now, that does obviously not include the players who would be fifth-year players this year, who started in the class of 2022 and played 4 years. That's been the ongoing legal pursuit here these last several months since the NCAA announced the rule, which, as an aside, why the NCAA decided to announce that it was moving to 5 for 5 when it did, like, is also mind-bogglingly strange. If the NCAA had waited until October and said, okay, starting next year, everybody gets 5 years, including everyone who's playing right now, then it would have taken care of 95% of all the legal maneuvering that we're seeing right now. Guys would already be overseas. Guys would already be on NBA rosters, in camps, and in the G League. Like, it would have, the timing of this it's so badly conceived that it makes me wonder if it was intentional. I don't know. I can't for the life of me understand why the NCAA didn't think that announcing it when it did wouldn't result in like tons of lawsuits. And that's exactly where we are. So the Colorado case, granted, all 2022 all class of 2022 players a fifth year of eligibility. Late last week, that case, the NCAA won its appeal and got a stay on that case. So everyone in 2022 now does not have blanket eligibility for this upcoming season. Now, that does not apply to the state lawsuits, of which there are quite a few, although two of those have been also stayed, as the NCAA has fought back. Now, Christoph Tilley is not in one of those state lawsuits. He did enter the transfer portal during the spring in order to help keep all of his options open should something happen. If he is in college, he will be at Ohio State. I feel we can say that definitively. If Christoph Tilley's playing college basketball in 2026-27, it will be at Ohio State. But given where the federal case stands right now, unless Tilley were to either file an injunction at a state level or join one that's already in progress, there's not an immediate path to collegiate eligibility at this moment because that case in Colorado was stayed. That is all subject to change, it seems, at any moment. And adding to all of that, we got some statements from both the Big Ten and the SEC early in this week that give some indication maybe where some of this is headed. So the Big Ten put out a statement on Tuesday. The unanimous adoption of a conference rule to prohibit football players who have signed a professional contract, were on a professional roster at any point, or declared for the NFL draft as an underclassman without withdrawing from maintaining eligibility for athletic competition at a conference institution. This is a Big Ten statement. The conference continues to evaluate potential rules restricting professional athletes in other sports from conference competition. So the Big Ten has said, hey, if you were on an NFL roster, if you withdrew from college, went in the draft, you didn't keep if you went to the draft, you didn't keep your eligibility, now you're trying to come back, you can't do that. So that's where the Big Ten stands on football. The rest of the sports, to be determined. We don't know where the Big Ten's going to go on that. We also don't know if this stuff's going to hold up. Honestly, the best thing working in anyone's favor who's just wanting a resolution to all this is the calendar. At some point, you got to play the games and you got to have your team. Although, as we saw last year, players are still going to try and were able to join teams mid-season. So we don't have a Big Ten stance yet on men's basketball, but the SEC does. And this is interesting to me because there's a lot of parallel when it comes to the football part of this, but then the SEC applied it to other sports. It says, an SEC institution is not permitted to have an athlete on its roster who has, 1, previously declared for the NFL, NBA, or WNBA draft and did not appropriately withdraw. 2, signed a contract with an NFL, NBA/G League, or WNBA or affiliate team. Or 3, been listed on an NFL, NBA/G League, or WNBA or affiliate roster. So now we get even further into some nitty-gritty logistical legal stuff here, which is Christoph Tilley played for Oklahoma City in the NBA Summer League, which would seem to make him ineligible to play in the SEC, but we don't yet know what the Big Ten stance will be on this. The thing that we don't know is whether or not he actually signed a contract with the Thunder, because he clearly agreed to a contract and clearly played for Oklahoma City, and if he's not at Ohio State, will be with the Thunder in preseason camp working to earn a full-time job. So on June 25th, Tilley's agency, Lift Management, did post a photo of him in a Thunder jersey with the caption, in all caps, signed, which would indicate he signed a contract with the Thunder. But as this has all been unfolding this week, John Chepkovich, who's the director of scouting for DraftExpress.com, who DraftExpress just does an unbelievable job with all this stuff. He had said in a tweet that he listed a whole bunch of players who signed these Exhibit 10 or were on these Exhibit 10 deals to play for teams in the Summer League. And it's noon on Wednesday. I don't know if you can hear the siren behind me. But he said in a tweet that Tilley is one of the players who did not execute his contract. Possibly for this reason, I don't know. But so you have the director of scouting for Draft Express saying that Tilley didn't actually sign a contract. Tilley's agency, when he joined the Thunder, literally posted signed. So we don't know. And we don't honestly, at the end of the day, know if that would even matter when it comes to playing at Ohio State. At this point, unless he were to file for an injunction, temporary restraining order at a state level and have that approved, he would not at this moment have a path to playing at Ohio State because the 5th-year case in Colorado has been stayed for the time being. Now, there was also a case in Ohio, one of the cases that the NCAA has won on appeal and been granted a stay. One was in Ohio. So that could potentially make things more difficult. But it's difficult. Like I feel like by the time I finish recording this and this gets to your ears, this situation might have already flipped. But that's where all of that stands. He is enrolled at Ohio State. He's in the student directory. He is not in Columbus, and we will wait and see what the rest of that looks like, and we'll have more as it becomes available. All right, so last bit of housekeeping here before we wrap this one up. There's a couple of visits that are taking place, will be taking place. Here's who's on Ohio State's immediate radar here as visit season will start to get underway. So per 247sports.com, Jaden Jenkins is on campus right now, actually. He is from Warminster, PA, plays for Archbishop Wood. He's a 6'10", 220-pound center in the 2027 class. The 24/7 Sports composite ranks him the number 46 overall player, number 7 center, number 1 player in Pennsylvania. This weekend, Josh Tyson will be visiting Ohio State on an official visit. He was at Xavier last weekend, and then he'll go to Virginia Tech on September 5th, Cincinnati on September 19th, and Michigan State on October 9th. This is obviously someone that has been on Ohio State's radar and has been a priority for a good while here. 6'1", 170-pound point guard from Lakota West High School, was at Lakota West down in Southwest Ohio, transferred to La Lu in Indiana for his senior season. He is the composite number 56 prospect, according to 24/7 Sports, number 12 point guard, number 4 player in Indiana. So he'll be visiting this weekend. And then September 5th, 2 players that are slated to be on campus, Dang Gore from Fort Erie International Academy in Ontario, Canada, 6'8", 200-pound power forward, number 115 in the 24/7 Sports composite, and the number 19 power forward. And Jackson Davis from Kansas City Monarch Academy, 6 foot, 165-pound point guard, who's the composite number 41 prospect per 24/7 Sports, the number 9 point guard, and the number 1 player in Kansas. Now, there will be more visits as we move further into football season. My understanding is that Marcus Henry will be at Ohio State the weekend that the Buckeyes host Illinois. But we'll get into more of that as we move further in the calendar, and we also get more of an idea on what the 2027 class might look like. This is, as we've discussed, it's going to be interesting how schools approach this. Like, I know I talked about how Toledo has its highest rated recruiting class ever. Butler just landed its highest rated recruit ever. You're seeing more and more players who probably would be going to more high profile schools are not getting those kinds of scholarship offers because most teams are going to be able to retain the majority of their roster if they choose to do so, or if they have the financial means to do so. But the sport is going to get older next year, which is certainly going to have an impact on those younger guys, and is certainly going to impact how many high major programs want to bring in a player who's going to take some time to develop. It reminds me of when Ohio State went super young with Bruce Thornton's class at a time when everybody got the COVID year, and the sport was literally older than it had ever been, and Ohio State was like the youngest team in the country. We saw how that worked. I don't think you're going to see teams in a huge rush, and you're not seeing teams in a huge rush to land work-in-progress recruits for 2027, and we'll see how many spots people have. I don't yet have a great idea, and I don't think Ohio State yet has a great idea on how big 2027 is going to be from a high school recruiting standpoint, because, and I guess factor in the financial side of this too. Who knows what these kids are asking for and or think that their market value should be, and ultimately, are you willing to pay that for someone who's going to be 18 playing against 23-year-olds? It's a fascinating time, but we'll keep our eyes open. We'll see what this recruiting season looks like for Ohio State. And when we know more, we'll let you know. We'll wrap this one up here. It was a good week for music last week. New Weezer, 20th Weezer album. I guess technically, if you want to count the season's EPs, if you count each of those, the Gold album now. Listened to it a couple times. Pretty good. Brandon Flowers has a new album. Thrasher, lead singer of The Killers. He went country western, and there's some really strong moments on it. I got both of those on Friday, and I've been listening to them a lot. But man, go listen to some Dolly Parton today. I posted on Twitter when she passed that when Prince died and when David Bowie died, you just thought like they seemed so otherworldly. It was just hard to imagine them not being here. And that's what Dolly feels like. And I cannot even begin to profess to be a huge Dolly Parton aficionado when it comes to her musical catalog. But my kids were part of the Imagination Library, and we got a book from Dolly Parton in the mail every month until they were 5. And when we got that last book, and there's a note in there from Dolly about how much she hopes that they enjoyed reading, and saying that she'll always love them. And I mean, yeah, it was emotional every time, and it's getting emotional even just thinking about it. So go find a way to pay respect to Dolly today. Go do something great for somebody else. Go buy coffee for the person in line behind you, or in the drive-thru behind you, or find someone that needs a hug, or just do what Dolly would do today. Find a way to do that. That's where I am. So as always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter or ajardydispatch.com. Thank you for listening. Thanks for putting up with my sappiness. Thanks to Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, for getting this out to you all. I'll be back with you soon. Not sure if there will be another one this week. We'll see if there's news that dictates it. I'm working on a couple of feature stories that I want to try to finish by Friday and start moving into the start of the season. So until then, be kind, take care, be like Dolly, and we'll talk soon.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.